Welcome back to the Daily Workout. This is My Life in Recruitment Week. I'm Angela Cripps, the MD of the Recruiting Gym, and this is Debby Clement. Good morning, Debby.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here. I feel very excited and very honoured, actually, standing in the footsteps of other gods.
Well, I must admit, I've just seen Recruiter Zone put there. This is a great series, Angela, and I'm guessing that's Louise Triant, who is tomorrow, so don't miss that one either. Louise and I did a series in lockdown called Success Stories. And it was 10 questions that we asked people, same questions every time, of people that set up recruitment companies and probably sold them or doing very, very well. And we loved that series. But there's only so many people that have set up recruitment companies and done that. And I think this is the natural follow-on to it, the 5 same questions that I'm asking all of you. And we're getting some really great ideas and information, and certainly hints and tips as well that we'll pull all together for everyone. So I've made the decision already. This is going to be a regular. We already had 7 quarterly regulars that we do on the Daily Workout. So this is number 8. We will be interviewing people every 3 months and finding out about My life in recruitment. So let's find out all about you then, Debby. The starting point is the starting point. Where or how did you get into the recruitment industry?
It's that old story, isn't it? Does anyone actually make it their business to be in recruitment? Most people seem to fall into it, and I fell into it twice. We were just having a conversation just before we came on air. My first job ever in recruitment was with a tiny recruitment franchise in Chippenham in Wiltshire, where I was finding HGV drivers for Treble Bassett. That was way back when I was 19 years old. 25 years later, I'm a bit older than that, but a little bit in between. I joined as a 2-hour-a-day temp in a recruitment franchise in Northamptonshire, Management Recruiters International, kind of a well-known franchise in its day, and grew my way to office manager. Joined the franchise master license for Europe, looked after 40 offices across Europe as a franchise resource consultant, training recruiters, helping owners manage and run their businesses, which desks to open up, which specialties. And then I had a sabbatical. I was lucky to have a sabbatical, placed my husband in a 4-man startup. He managed to exit. Which took us to America, and literally we flipped a coin on that. He said, I've been made the offer to go to America. His company was acquired. He said, do we go, do we not go? I said, no, I remember this day. I said, come on, let's flip a coin.
Your life on the line, flip of a coin.
This is it. It is one of those opportunities. Do we go? Do we not go? I mean, it was a big move because we have children. They were grown up and left home at that time. So we did. We flipped a coin and we went. Now I couldn't really work because he was on a visa, but chance meeting on a beach took me into the non-profit sector. The business that the franchise that I ran in Management Recruiters International was a niche in renewable energy. And I found myself in a whale conservation nonprofit because it was all things environmental. Defining moment, standing on the rooftop bar of the United Nations after delivering a presentation with my CEO for oceans to put them higher on the climate change agenda. And then back home, thinking about, okay, recruitment, what do I do next? Relaunched a new business, talent acquisition as a service. And that, as a result of that business, is where I am today. So one of my clients, it took on our services and then they were acquired, and that's why I'm in the role today. So
that's amazing.
Well,
I mean, there's a couple of links there to yesterday. We had Hung Lee, and he likened being a recruiter to a bit of a gambler in that sense. And so the fact that you're there flipping a coin, I'm thinking, yeah, that's a recruiter then. But he was one. First one I've come across in that sense that specifically aimed at becoming a recruiter all those years ago, because you're right, we all fell into it at that point. Okay, so definitely then opportunities and spotting opportunities, you're there, aren't you? You're picking them up and
and Isn't it? It's the most amazing career because you have this window into companies and seeing all of what they do and where you could be. And this window into people's lives that you are changing on a daily basis, which is where I get my personal motivation from. And marrying those two together, joining up the dots. I think that's why I was in it. I was never the biggest biller. There were amazing recruiters in our network, in MRI, Danny Cahill, CSAMs, certified senior account managers billing more than $250,000 a year. They get paid as much as architects because they are brilliant at what they do, working at the levels they do. Yeah, it's just an amazing career that brings you the opportunities, and you've got to take those when you see them and grab them.
Definitely. Well, that might be your answer to the first one. We're asking you about the good, the bad, and the ugly in your recruitment life. So, what would you like to add to the good then, as well as that?
The good, I think the good is team winning. I remember when in the Kettering franchise, and one of the team members that I hired in the Kettering office, which turned into an office of the year numerous times in the MRI network. She's working with me now on my team, so that's like 20 years later. Snaffled her back out of retirement, which was good. And the team win. I remember the day we closed the year, we'd hit our targets, and we hired 2 helicopters to fly the team down to London. And that was in the kind of .com era where we were a telecoms specialist office.
Nice.
We'd done amazing stuff. We'd recruited for all the big telecoms companies, and that day was wow. We won the award for Officer of the Year. We've flown down to London, up the Thames on 2 helicopters. And when we were a tiny team, there was only six odd of us, but we all went, and that was an amazing day because it was a team win. It wasn't just a solo biller or anything like that. It was a collective win, which was really nice. So that whole team spirit in recruitment, I think, is really, really important. Gets you through those really hard days, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, that's such an image to have of you in these helicopters. And it flipped me to our team win when we were going up to London and we'd won events, but we always used to go in our minivan because that used to take the Thames to work and back again. But I've now got that picture of the team of 10 in that van singing our hearts out on the way there, as well as on the way back. And it was such an amazing feeling. And this is 34 years later now or so that I'm thinking about this. Yeah, whether it's a helicopter or in the back of a minibus.
Those recruitment awards, I mean, they're still going, aren't they? It's still a very messy night, isn't it? We've had some very messy nights there, some nights, which is
pretty much, yeah. Do it from there. Okay, so that's the good, and yes, I would agree with that. What about bad in your recruitment life?
So there are 2 moments that were really bad, but the one that I remember the most that taught me a massive lesson was we had a client that we'd been working our socks off for a few months, and every hire that we put in, the debt was clocking up. They still hadn't paid their bill. And same office, only small team. We got to 100,000 in outstanding debt, and the client still hadn't paid. And I remember thinking this is really serious, and the HR director at the time was it seemed like there was a bit of game playing going on, but it turned out that we had to have a meeting with them. We spent literally 4 weeks putting together every piece of paper that documented where the contract had been signed, all the deviations from the contract, all the hires that went in, all the instructions that came down from the HR department. I remember sitting across the table. It was a big telecoms company, no names, no factorials, but there was about 6 of them on the other side of the table, including their legal counsel. And there was 2, me and our MD, the other side of the table. And I remember the director pushing across a check for £10,000 saying, I think that's what we owe you. And I remember pushing the check back across the table saying, I think you're about £90,000 short. And I lifted my bag, my lever arch file. There's a lot of paperwork in those days. It was about this thick, and I dropped it on the table with a big thud and said, so if you want this to go to court, here's everything that we'll be taking with us. Lots of little post-it notes in there. And they settled the day after. We got our check, and then literally 3 days after that, they went into Chapter 11. So we could have lost the whole thing. That would have been the whole company put under. And that taught me a really big lesson: the importance of process, the importance of contracts, and the importance of tidy documentation. So I'm a bit of a stickler for that now, even within our team in-house. So
yeah, it always gets to me that people feel that that's okay. The fact there were 6 people sitting there, all quite happy to stand behind £10,000 check, and they would have said, "Yeah, I'll sleep at night." And you're like, how people be in business like that? Well, they weren't, and that's the whole point.
Exactly. Ethics. Yeah, super important. So that was good. And then the other kind of bad thing was EcoSearch was the franchise that I grew and launched, was the fastest growing franchise in Europe in renewable energy. And then come the 2008 crash, we had to let all of our people go one by one. And that, when you've painted the walls and you've put the carpet down and you have nurtured everybody. I remember hiring Catherine, I think, was our 3rd hire. And I remember all that time, and the team that we had there was such fun, and we were doing such work of purpose because it was in renewables. But we got rolled over by the 2008 crash. 75% of our business was in startup. We didn't diversify enough. I didn't have enough financial acumen to run the business, it was crushing. But it shows you how much resilience you can have in recruitment. It's like, okay, we fold the office. We paid everybody apart from Monster because they didn't want to settle because they didn't believe we were folding the office. So that was really hard. And then I went home and I worked off of my kitchen table to keep some money coming in. But you can do that within recruitment. So that was epic that time.
I mean, if you've had a long career in recruitment, there is going to be some tough times, isn't there? So, unfortunately, let's just take a quick break there. Joe Phillips on LinkedIn Live says, "Good morning." Who have we got?
Morning, everyone.
Saying good morning. And there's some people waiting to connect with you. Debbie's LinkedIn link is there, so please do feel free to reach out to her, and obviously they want to carry on that conversation. And of course, Catherine is there as well. And, Catherine, as soon as I said to people, who should we talk to, Catherine was my first boss, definitely should be the first to speak to. So she very highly of you. Okay, this doesn't seem right now, talking about Catherine and then saying what's the ugly in recruitment, because those two definitely don't go. So what would you say is the ugly in the recruitment industry?
I think, oh golly, ugly. I think it's really unfortunate that recruitment has such a tarnished reputation. So I think my one plea would be just look about the intent that you have. And I don't think I didn't realize until I moved in-house, and my first move to in-house from agency, I thought was going to be easy. I had no idea. It was a complete disaster, the first 6 months of an in-house move from agency. But it did teach me that the intent that you have, if it's just driven by money, it can turn really ugly. If it's driven by bringing value beyond the money, then it works out really, really well. I think I probably have about maybe 30 approaches a week from agencies and recruiters. And the ones that I listen to are the people that bring me value, the people that feel like they're in the industry for the long run because they love the industry that they're in. They're not just in there for a fee. So I think that's a little bit the ugly side of recruitment for me. But I think I've been pretty lucky. I don't think I've had any really hideous, ugly kind of things. No? But that would be my recommendation. Would be go into recruitment because you're passionate about the industry and you're passionate about people, not just for the money. The money's getting harder and the business model is changing. So who knows what will happen.
Well, I think that's a great piece of advice already for anyone that's joining the industry. That, yeah, it's not about the money. And that's what I'm loving about working with new people coming in, because
Yeah.
they're not so money motivated, actually. It makes it harder. Because
Yes.
it's easy. If they're money motivated, it was easy
Yeah.
to get them to do what they needed to do. They would just do it.
Yeah.
But certainly the fact that people are in it to make a difference and to have a purpose behind it, I think that's a great way for the industry to make those changes.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's see where that takes us. So that leads me on to my last question. With regards to going back all those years, what's the one bit of advice that you'd give to someone starting in the industry?
I was blessed going into MRI. We had Phil Taylor was our boss at the time. He was an ex-industry guy turned recruiter training. Join a brand where you've got good methodology and good training, and where there are mentors there that have been in the industry for a while. There is nothing like sitting next to a recruiter and listening in on those interviewing conversations. You find those golden questions, the one that I use every day when negotiating salaries. What would you say yes to? What would you say no to? What would have you opening a bottle of champagne? That single snippet has been has been the change to my salary negotiations over the years, and I got that from an MRI recruiter who shared their expertise. So training methods, who is your mentors, how long have they been there, and if they've come from industry, that's even better. And the other thing that I would say is cultivate your metrics. Metrics are not a bad thing, so understand. Understand. I mean, we all got really nerdy about our metrics in the office because we knew exactly what to tweak when something was going wrong. So how many marketing presentations does it take for you to convert to a client conversation? How many CVs do you send out to get a send out, an interview? How many manager interviews do you send out in order to get a placement, a hire? All of those things are the feedback mechanisms to your personal development, and you can tweak each one and watch your billings rise or your efficiency gain. So own your metrics and know what they are. I think that would be the other piece of advice.
I'm glad you've added onto that. We had Greg Savage on Monday, and we ended up talking about fill rates and tweaking that, and just looking at what is your job to placement, and how many are you actually placing at the moment, and what's going wrong, and therefore make a difference on that. You don't have to do any more work, but you could potentially double your money on there. Right, let's go back to the comments. Catherine, I miss those days. Learned so much from you. From those. And I can't see what the emoji is, but she's saying, Charlotte's saying, Catherine, I only found out last week that that's an emoji of people hugging. It looked like a bear to me, a blue bear. Admittedly, I thought it was another video projector.
Oh,
hugging. Okay, we'll find that emoji. We're going to use that a lot more. Faye said, great insights. I'm newer in the industry and hate that so many people are in here for the money. There you go. So Faye joining us is reiterating that fact that it's not all about the money. It is about making the difference. And if you're doing your BD calls and you're not in it for the long run, and you're not sharing with your clients that you're looking for long-term relationships and making sure that you're making the best matches, then they may not take your calls. So you're better off doing it the other way anyway. So you've had that hint today as well. Catherine saying, it's a weird hug. But we'll work with it. If it's meant to be a hug, then we'll make it known that that's what it is. Wonderful. Well, our time goes so quickly in the mornings here, but it's been lovely getting to find out a little bit more about your journey, Debbie. I hope we get to see you again on one of our other webinars.
Maybe in person at RecFest, because I'm desperate to get there. Every time it comes on, I'm away, it seems. So thank you for the invite.
The dates off Jamie Learned now, actually, for next year, because it was wonderful, I must admit. Lauren on Tuesday, that was our guest. She was a speaker at RecFest. That's how I met her. So yes, all these links coming back, and we started with Treeball Bassett, and that's where our conversation led, because there's always a link in recruitment somewhere. From an industrial point of view, Treeball Bassett was my biggest client, supplying people on the production line. So you had the
small world
production line. Fantastic. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow with the wonderful Louise Triance. Bye, Debbie.
Bye-bye.